One thing is quite clear. The current crisis is not going to pass in a few months. I spoke very early on about a turning point, and this is what we are talking about here. Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine has changed everything, and at the same time, supply chains have still not recovered from the pandemic, and general uncertainty is growing.
Well, that was German Chancellor Olaf Scholz at a meeting with trade unions on Monday, driving home his message that Europe's largest economy will take a hit as the war in Ukraine shows no sign of ending soon. Germany, like most countries, reporting inflation rates not seen in decades. The cost of living is skyrocketing, and now Germany's export machine, its ability to sell to the world, is looking weaker. Numbers out for the month of May show that for the first time in 30 years, Germany recorded a trading deficit. Imports into Germany were worth nearly €1 billion more than German exports in that month. Unusual times. My colleague Janelle Damalian from DW Business joins me now. You know, Janelle, we hear about the U.S. having a trade deficit with China. We've been hearing about that now for years, but not Germany, right? So it makes it a big deal, doesn't it?
Indeed, we've arrived at different territory for Germany after it spent years enjoying this trade surplus. And, you know, just going back a little, I suppose what makes it different from the U.S. is that Germany had a strategy to get that trade surplus, and it was of cost management. It was able to keep its costs low. So just as an example, it employed wage restraints, so agreements between unions and employers to keep wage hikes in check, and that kept costs low for the companies and German products more competitive on the international market. But perhaps more relevant to our discussion today, Germany also bought cheap Russian energy, and that powered the manufacturing machine that delivered those made-in-Germany products to the U.S., to China, to Russia. And, you know, if your strategy is being able to produce cheaply, well, that's not proving to be so tenable anymore. As, you know, as you say, the cost of living rises, everything is more expensive across the board. And that's why we're seeing this trade deficit for the first time in a very long time in Europe's biggest economy. And we've got these issues you brought up, particularly the cost of energy, and this is not going to go away anytime soon. So what is this going to mean then for Germany's future as, Europe's export champion? Well, you know, this trade deficit is a monthly figure, right? But it's so hard to try and figure out what's going to happen to Germany in the long run when so many short-term things are unclear. So just to give you an example, in the next days, Russia is expected to cut off gas flows to Germany via the Nord Stream 1 pipeline for 10 days as it undergoes some scheduled maintenance. And it's just not clear whether Russia is going to turn on those taps again after that maintenance is over. And, you know, this prospect of more things contributing to the energy supply crunch is another cause for a headache for Germany's economic policymakers. But essentially what we're seeing is energy insecurity really threatening this model that underpinned German prosperity for such a long time. And it's hard to see Germany going back to business as usual or just the way it was after that. And, you know, there have been plenty of critics of the trade surplus that Germany has had now for years. So those critics, what do they make of what's happening now? Well, it's true that the trade surplus had many critics. You know, the fact that Germany was able to make its products more competitive by design meant that Germany had an edge, and that pushed out other countries' products. And there were really things that Germany could have done more, such as raising wages and increasing public expenditure. But Brent, I don't really think that this was the rebalancing that other countries were looking for. These things like snarled up supply chain, energy costs, and inflation. Now, it's not just going to be Germany that is changed by all of this, so
that's exactly right. The supply chain issues alone impacting everyone, anyone who gets anything delivered, and that's actually almost everyone on the planet. Janelle Damalian from DW Business. As always, Janelle, thank you.
Thank you.